All right, I appreciate it. Okay, so I've started a recording. Well, again, really do, Tommy, appreciate your interest in Wilmington Island United Methodist Church Music Ministries.
There we go.
Um, and I think, looks like we have a pretty local connection,
Yeah.
uh, so which is amazing. But I've got a series of questions to run through, and I want to be respectful of your time.
Okay.
So we'll try to keep this to about 30 minutes. And the goal today is to get to know you a little better, to have something I can share with the committee. And then in January, we'll start doing the official invitations to Savannah to actually all the candidates that we bring in meet with the choir, meet with the bell choir, the praise band, the staff, and really get a chance to get to know the church and us to get to know you so we know that it's a good fit.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So the first question is, can you describe your approach and share your experiences with faith-based traditional music? So this would be more the traditional type service.
So I grew up in a very traditional church. I grew up in the Sandersville Church. If you all are familiar with Sandersville,
Yep.
Just right up the road, about an hour and a half, 2 hours. I grew up with a local lady, Mercedes Yeomans, who was my piano teacher. Her parents, back in the days, she was Mercedes Norris, so they owned the Pink House for many years. And so I grew up with her and really learned a lot of pedology through her and learning the inner workings of the church, also the organ through her. And so really came to love traditional worship, how the organ enhances worship. I love a good processional where the choir, they thunder down the aisle. I love that. But I love being creative because I think a lot of times people think that traditional worship has to be stale. And I think there's a lot of creativity to be had in worship with traditional, as far as, through handbells and even bringing in some other instruments, not just orchestra instruments, but, I do quite a bit with our choir with some of the contemporary music instruments. So I try to blend a lot of that with that at certain times of the year. But, I'm an organist, so I love the organ and I love how that enhances worship. I've been very privileged to be part of some big churches, the one in Warrenton, Virginia, back in 2001 when I first started full-time. They had, I'm not sure if people have heard it, but it's a living Christmas tree where that we construct a huge replica of a Christmas tree and the choir members actually get in there in the Christmas tree. And so we ran that, Thursday night, Friday night, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. And that opened me up to a new way of thinking about how to present the gospel with the choir, just something different. But I really love Sunday to Sunday stuff. I think is just as important, if not more, because you get your core people there, Sunday to Sunday. So I really try to focus in on with traditional worship, well, any worship actually. I want my music to reflect what the minister is speaking, but also, the ultimate goal is to, bring people closer to the throne through our music. And so if it doesn't do that, then we have to figure out a different way to do that. So, but traditional is my heart as far as how we worship.
Okay. We currently have 2 traditional services, an 8:30 and an 11, and in the middle is the contemporary service. And then it's moved to the fellowship hall. We have a praise band. What are your thoughts? What's your history? How do you feel about faith-based contemporary services and the music that's associated with that?
Well, I think there's room for growth in every style of worship. The thing that I really get sometimes frustrated with is with contemporary, people think that means non-liturgical, and that's not true. There's a lot of seasons to be had within the contemporary realm, so I really try to keep that as close to the hub of, still celebrate Advent, because how do you have Christmas without Advent? How do you have Easter without Lent? So I really try to hone in on people's talents, try to show them that there's different ways also through contemporary worship to celebrate the seasons, number one. I don't play the guitar, but usually when I lead, this is the first church I've been in a while that doesn't have a band, and so this is new for me to be all back in traditional, and so I really like contemporary, but I lead from playing a keyboard standing up, or either just as a vocalist if there's strong people on keys and guitar through that. I also don't have to be part of the band. Part of what I enjoy too is just being there as a reference and being there to kind of lead them through the rehearsal process and kind of help their musicality as well. So I don't see myself as always having to be in the limelight with them, but I do want to be a part of it because I do love contemporary as well.
Well, that's good to hear. And one other service I didn't mention, on the fifth Sunday of a month, when that happens, we have one blended service, which is fantastic because all three services come in at one time.
You mean the sanctuary or the social hall?
It's sanctuary.
Okay.
So your 8:30, 11 o'clock, and 9:45 services all meet at a specified time. Congregation, the pews are full. The music is traditional. It's contemporary. It's the choir singing with the praise band. It's a celebration of music. It's a celebration of the church as a unified body. Mm-hmm. So that's something that certainly the two get a chance to come together a couple of times a year.
Right. Okay.
With your work history, and thank you for your resume, talk a little bit about the path that you've taken through the different churches and how they've developed you to where you feel that perhaps Wilmington Island United Methodist Church is the next right step.
Well, I think I said in my cover letter, I really, when moving back here to be near my kids, we divorced, but I thought it was the right step. My kids are very important to me, but my mother was hit by a car this past May. Oh, wow. And so that she is very active and very vibrant. But like the doctor said, she's still 80 years old, Mm-hmm. So her bones are 80 years old. So I have really felt that pull to be back near my parents. When I was there at Thanksgiving, her other hip is now cracked and she's totally walking with a walker. So that's really frustrating. But I just have always loved being in Springfield. I loved it. I'll be honest. We left Springfield only because my wife at the time wanted to come back here. This is where her family was. And it was kind of a last ditch effort, to be real honest with you, for our marriage. And anybody you speak to, I think I put one choir member down there, Karen Neidlinger, that was part of my choir there in Springfield. She can attest to that. I love Springfield. And that was a thriving, growing church when Ben Martin was there. He's at Wesley now in Savannah. And I started off really young, actually, at 20, 21, being at Warrenton United Methodist here in Virginia. I didn't want the chance to come by and say, I wanted the chance to go home rather than the chance be, I never left. So that's kind of how I ended up in Virginia the first time. And it was a large church, about 700 on Sunday morning, 600 to 700. And so I've had some really great experiences and been able to learn a lot. Like I said, all the churches I've been in have been either, learning experiences or places I have found that I don't jive with, to be real honest. And when I don't jive somewhere, then I don't make a stink. I try to, that's only kind of happened one other time, but the church was growing at the time. And to be honest, it was easier for me to get out of the way than push my views on them because the church was growing. And I can disagree with anybody on worship styles if the church is growing or I know that they have the best interest of the church at hand. Wilmington Island seems like a great place. Have always, enjoyed being around in the Savannah area. I love it. Again, when I was in Springfield, I played a lot of funerals there, in the Savannah area. So it's just been part of my heart as well as my kids when they're with me. So.
Okay, good. What do you feel are some of your strengths and your weaknesses, in particular, public speaking, doing read and response in the service, taking an active part, supporting the music, directing the music, but also perhaps leading the congregation through some of the activities of the service?
I believe Rob came from College Place United Methodist Church.
Yeah.
And when I was in Louisville, the minister there was Dr. Bill Daniel, who is now at College Place United Methodist Church. And when he was there, I really became an active role as far as speaking in worship by almost an associate kind of way. I did a lot of visitation. And when he was out, I would also give the sermon. So I do, I feel very comfortable with that. I have not been in that role in about a year or so, just because I have been at the keyboard directing the choir. Mm-hmm. But I feel very comfortable. I'm always asked back at another church in my hometown to bring the message for their homecoming last couple of years. So I do feel very comfortable, as far as that. And being youth director, giving a message each week, when I was youth director as well.
Okay, well, good. The kind of along the same lines, if you could describe your thoughts on accountability in performing assigned duties. And it sounds like, sometimes you stepped up, you did the sermon, you have been in charge of the youth and had to deliver messages. In the leadership role, can you talk about your thoughts on accountability as a leader?
We're actually going through a transitional process here, and if God has me stay here, I will be over the youth and children's ministry here, not actually doing those, but I will be almost as an executive kind of director over them, and they'll be with me. I think it's very important. I think accountability, I think the biggest problem, and I will say that because being 40 now, I've had to live through it starting so early. I think the biggest problem with accountability is communication. And I think if you can't get something done or you feel like a task is too big, I think you need to speak up. But also, I think we also have to stretch ourselves. Mm-hmm. But I also feel like once given a task, in my realm, unless there's a horrific tragedy, I feel like accountability is so important because not only do we have to get our tasks done and assigned for each week, I also believe that it helps us spiritually with our spiritual disciplines, being able to take direction from people. And it doesn't mean that I, your supervisor, am not held accountable. I'm held accountable to the minister. So if there are people under me, then I've got somebody also kind of riding me, if you will, to make sure my tasks are done and to make sure that I'm keeping my staff on par and what's happening. So things also, with accountability, also comes freshness in worship or freshness of ministry, I believe, in the church.
Right. Talking about the different parts of the church, and this is now kind of looking at talent. How do you feel about working with talent that is at any and every level, from child to adult, from novice to professional?
It's funny because children can get up, and if they stand there and the music plays and they just cry, people think they're so cute. I don't want that with my adult choir. I think everybody has a certain place and a certain niche. Most of the time, and I stress most, when people don't sing really well or play an instrument really well, they don't usually ask for a solo or small group. Most of the time, you've got those few that maybe do. Having said that, I do believe there's place in the church for everyone. I started at Seidenstricker. We started a small orchestra that played 2 Sundays a month. And there were a couple of people that, were not up to par because they were in high school. It was from anyone in high school on up. And so being so close to DC, we had We had people in the Marine Band and things like that. So we had some really great people. And I would just pull them aside and gently talk to them and say, this is a harder piece. I'm going to give this just to the people that are, able to execute this. Because a lot of times when you do that, you have a finite amount of time to be with these people and rehearse. So sometimes people get that. And, my goal is never to hurt anybody's feelings, but I do look within first, say for our Christmas program or Easter. I do look within first, who plays an instrument and is this too hard? And then I want to go out and hire instrumentalists or vocalists because, if you're doing the Messiah, then I want vocalists that can carry that task out. And if we've got them in our church, which I've been blessed to have in another church, great. If I don't, then I do need to hire somebody. But I always look within first because I think it's important to showcase the people that are faithful each week first, and the people then you just want a ringer that can do a beautiful job.
With the ringing, the handbell choir, there's some beautiful pieces that you sent samples of. As you go into churches, have you had the opportunity to expand, to grow the handbell, to create pieces where it's in tandem with the choir? How do you feel, or where do you feel the handbell choir has its place in the services?
Usually when they play, and I've done this kind of at all churches I've been at, they play the prelude and offertory, and when they play prelude, at other churches we've had the announcements and then the prelude. Here they do the prelude first, as people gather. So we do 2 or 3 pieces as people gather, and then we do a piece in the offertory spot. They always will accompany at least 1, maybe 2 hymns as part of that. There's some beautiful pieces with choir, and so a lot of times either I'll do it with the whole choir, or I will get an ensemble together to sing that anthem with the handbells. It depends on how complicated the handbell piece is. The last several churches I've been in, the reason I do a small ensemble is they can kind of direct themselves, because I have been behind the keyboard as the organist as well. And so I do it that way because where the organ sits here, and at my last church, the handbells could not see me if I was at the organ. So, I really enjoy handbells. I think they enhance worship, especially on big Sundays when you have brass and handbells and organ, then to be able to function with them together collectively. The other thing I've done is put them in the choir loft, in the U around the choir, and have them be part of it, especially on big Sundays, say Christmas Eve or Easter, to be able to do some harder things that also incorporate orchestration.
Great. Well, I want to be respectful of time, so I would like to kind of get you to talk about your expectations of the position we have, what you expect of it, and perhaps one visionary item you would like to do with the church.
Well, as far as visioning, I have always had this big expectation that I grew up in a church that was smaller than Wilmington Island. We probably had 200 on Sunday, but we had a thriving youth ministry, and our youth ministry consisted of a youth choir, and it was the youth choir that everybody from town came to. And I believe it was more than just we had a choir tour. I believe it was part of our spiritual faith development there. I believe it was the camaraderie, and I do believe it was the music. And I have always, at Side Stricker, we did youth choir tour, and that was very successful. I would love to see that. I just believe that that's not dead. I think I think there's a different way to capture young people again. So I don't believe it's dead. I believe we just have not found our niche on that. Maybe it is not a traditional choir tour, but maybe it is, maybe youth ring bells, or maybe it's a youth band that we start, that we have, that we take on the road. Maybe it's something small, even just down to, St. Augustine, or maybe it's up in the Atlanta area to Six Flags. I don't know. but maybe we start off small and build that camaraderie, trust, and get them together. Maybe it's the youth director and I doing a mission/musical tour where we're doing more than just music. So that's my visionary piece. I really am excited about a youth choir again. That's really exciting to me. As far as expectation, I guess I need to ask a couple of questions. So I would lead the. It looked like on one video that the handbell choir is intergenerational. There is that correct? So it's just one handbell choir.
Yes.
Okay. So I would lead the handbell choir, the chancel choir. Is there a choir or just special music at 8:30?
No, it's the choir. Pretty much, they'll rehearse a piece. They will perform at both 8:30 and 11.
All right. So what is attendance then at 8:30, 9:30, 9:45, 11?
8:30 is, as far as numbers, it's 40 to 60, depending on the day. Could drop less if it's the day after, the Sunday after holiday. Right. Contemporary is still trying to find its way. It's 20. Sometimes we'll peak at 30. Sometimes it'll drop to 10. And that's right smack in the middle. And, of course, part of the problem was it was starting to compete with Sunday school.
Okay.
So we now are offering the 11 o'clock Sunday school, so people have the opportunity for that. And then the 11 o'clock is your very, very much traditional, as you would expect. The families with the smaller kids come to that one. Much easier to get them ready and get them there by 11. So the larger crowd tends to be at the 11 o'clock service. The addition of the children's sermon is at the 11 o'clock. We don't do that at 8:30. So all in all, in the full day, it could be anywhere from 100 people to 200 people will show up on that Sunday with the 3 services.
Okay. All right. I guess, if there's other people that direct a children's choir or whatever, and maybe this is an unrealistic expectation, but I want my hand in every musical and worship aspect of the church. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to guide them. Right now I have an associate that does the children's choirs and one handbell choir here. And basically what I call it, I lead from the bench. Basically she directs it, but I give her the music, to kind of do that. And I do her administrative stuff to keep the kids on task and keep them within season. There are a lot of great people out there that do wonderful music. However, they don't know the church, to be quite honest. So if they come from a school background or a military background, then they have to also be educated in what are the high points of church and what are, let's not just pick this anthem because musically it's wonderful. We pick an anthem because it eliminates the sermon or, of the day. And there's sometimes I don't do that. I don't do that during the summer because it's a little more relaxed time. Mm-hmm. But as far as, going through Advent, Lent, and even part of ordinary time, when we have that time, then, I try to guide her that way. So I would really like to, be hands-on in musical aspect as far as planning worship. I would love to be part of that. I would also like to have the chance to, I don't know if there's an organist, but I would like to still use my talent in that way to help lead worship. And if there's a choir accompanist, I would love to, be able to work with that person.
We do have a full-time organist. We also have a part-time assistant for the music area, and she is the pianist. So between the two of them, you'll have the resources to allow you to direct while they accompany and play.
Oh, good.
And one other area we do have is our preschool. And it's very important to me and to others at the church that at times the music program overflows into the preschool. And you're really talking young kids now, but it's that influence of hearing the music, having some type of engagement with something that can tie them to the church part of the building, not just the school part.
Do they have, am I their music teacher for the preschool once a week or twice a week then?
It can work out to that, yes. I know that our current person would go down and would be involved and works with the director of the preschool on programming so that there is a reason for the music that's being done. And that's something that when you meet with more folks, they can give you more definite answers on how
Okay.
how the two work in tandem.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions for me?
I don't. And yeah, I appreciate it. Kind of, asked about the more specific job descriptions and then what the attendance is. And so when does this current person leave? When does he leave?
His last day is the last day of the year.
Okay.
And our assistant is going to, has agreed graciously to be interim. My goal, and I spoke to her yesterday, is to have the person in as soon as we can. So by the end of January is to have somebody committed, which brings to the question, what is your time frame?
I think February 1 would be good. I think you really can't go past that from my perspective to be able to really do a nice job at Easter and get you through Lent.
Mm-hmm.
Would be that. But and I know this is a crazy question, but the interim, the pianist, she has no want to be the full-time director, so there would be no kind of ego there.
She loves what she's doing. She's moved into this level of the position a year ago. She's been with the church as a member and a volunteer forever now. She's staff and loves it. We did go to her out of respect and say, "Are you interested?" She goes, "No, I'm so happy with what I'm doing."
Okay, all right. It's just a personality navigation you have to go through sometimes.
We do, yes. I know, I agree that February 1st would be ideal for anybody.
Right.
What type, in your situation, what type of notice are you having to provide your current church?
I would love to give them, at least 2 to 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
More, but you're saying that basically you're not going to start inviting people until the end of December, January in for those dates, correct?
Yes, it's going to be even harder than it is this week to get a group of folks together.
Right.
Our Christmas cantata is this Sunday. After that, it gets easier for the folks in the music program. But again, they're going to start traveling. They're going to have family in town. It's going to be tougher for you guys, the candidates, to come in.
Right.
So we really thought that if I can get the preliminary done now, get everybody to commit to their priority, and then schedule in December with our candidates to come in early January, it's the best ideal for us.
If you decide, let me just throw this out at you. I am off, and I know this is crazy. I am off January 5th already, and will be with my family in Georgia. Just so you know that. I can take off another Sunday and be here on the 5th, but just know, that request has already been put in through the office here.
What day of the week is the 5th?
The 5th is a Sunday, so
okay.
I will be off from really the 3rd through the 10th. The minister is gone the 29th, so I'm taking the week off after him.
Okay. Yeah, and so, the process that we'll go through is to have the candidates on site to meet with the various groups, to lead the choir in a 30-minute, 45-minute little workshop, which might be.
Is that a Wednesday night usually?
We'll do it any night.
Okay.
They usually practice, yes, on Wednesday, so that could happen. But that's an opportunity for the choir to get led by and inspired by a candidate. It could be doing one verse of one song. It could simply be, we've had folks years ago, they had them practice scales because they had never been exposed to that. So it's kind of having some fun and showing, they get a chance to see you and listen and get inspired. The praise band usually will come in and meet and discuss. We haven't always had the two play together.
Okay.
And then there'll be an official interview with the SPRC, the search committee, and the preacher. And of course, as we can arrange it, to meet with the staff. We are a small staff. The preacher, the secretary, the financial secretary, the music director, the youth director, and the preschool.
Okay. How long has your youth director been there?
Oh, Lordy, 10 years now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And Nick's been with us quite a bit. He just missed my first kid, and he was the big influence on my second.
Oh, good.
But yeah, he's been with us a long time. Our church secretary has been with us a lot longer than him. And of course, as you know, the preachers, they do rotate, but Rob, we're thankful, has been with us going into now his finishing his third year.
Yeah.
We're hoping that we'll have him a couple more years because he's local. He's from the area as well.
Right. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, but yes, it's a nice community. It's a wonderful environment. We've been members, my wife and I, and family since '91. So we've been tied to the church and thankful to have it. We're there.
Is there a, oh gosh, I cannot remember her last name. Her name is Roseanne. Do you know a Roseanne that goes to your church by chance?
Amon?
Yeah, I think she's from Springfield, as a matter of fact.
Well, we had a Roseanne Amon years ago. And I don't, right now, that name doesn't stand out for anybody else, though.
Okay, yeah. Her family was in my Springfield church.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, it's a small community.
Yeah, it is. Thank you, Andy. I appreciate your time so much.
I will be in touch with you to let you know next steps.
Okay.
And knowing about the 5th, I don't know. I'll look at the calendar what that Wednesday might be within that time frame.
I know that's fast, but I just want to go on since I'm far away. I wanted to go on and give you that date.
So, but that week you would be. I want to try to bring my calendar up here. You would be available.
The 8th. Because I would not leave until the 3rd or the 4th to actually come down. So I could, I'm off the 5th that Sunday, and so then the 8th. So really, if you wanted to do it like on that Sunday afternoon or even at their normal time on the 8th, either one of those would be okay.
So 5th or 8th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, any time that week, but I'm just trying to keep you on that. I'm off from 3rd through the 10th, so I'll be down, let's just say the 4th through the 10th, anytime that time.
That's good to know because we wouldn't want you to have to make 2 trips, turn around and come right back. That wouldn't make any sense.
That's fine.
All right, so I will be in touch about next steps and what we plan to do. Thank you so much for the time.
All right, thank you, Andy. I appreciate it. You have a great Christmas season.
You too. Happy holidays. Take care. Okay, bye-bye.